Hello and welcome to 7 Days in Europe. Well, let's kick things off by congratulating Europe on its new baby, Croatia. The Eastern Balkan country becomes the 28th member of the European Union on July the 1st. Getting here hasn't been an easy journey. It's taken 10 long years. But with the deadlock now broken, could Croatia pave the way forward for fellow Balkan countries like Serbia? And what about Turkey? In the news for all the wrong reasons, is its membership dead in the water? Well, here to talk to us about Europe's ever-expanding family is a lady who knows a lot on the subject, European People's Party Dutch MEP Ria Oomen-Ruijten. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Please.
Well, before we start our discussion, we're going to play a little game where I ask you a series of questions, and all you have to do is answer yes or no. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
OK, then let's go. Should Turkey give up on joining the EU?
No.
Are you in favour of the EU blocking Turkey's accession talks?
No.
Can you visualise a Europe with Turkey in it?
Yes.
Is Croatia a lame duck to be propped up by EU funds?
No.
Can Croatia then add value to the EU?
Absolutely.
Will you be celebrating Croatia's membership on July the 1st?
We celebrate, yes.
Is Serbia the next likely candidate to join the EU?
It will take time.
Do you think the former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi will finally go to jail?
No.
OK, we'll run out of time for that, and I hope you enjoyed that. Now, coming to our discussion, yesterday said that they would open negotiations on accession talks with Turkey in October. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I can understand it in the light of the recent developments in Turkey, because what we have with Turkey is more than only opening of chapters. Turkey, when it came into the European Union, promised to fulfill the so-called Copenhagen criteria. The harsh reactions which came from Turkey do fully understand that we need some time and we have to wait until the new progress report to further discuss the developments.
OK, Ms. Oomen, we will continue our discussion, but first of all, let's take a look at the roundup of this week's news with Caroline Grasso.
L'Union européenne s'agrandit. Le 1er juillet, la Croatie devient le 28e État membre de l'Union européenne. 12 nouveaux eurodéputés croates entrent au Parlement. L'entrée de la Croatie dans l'Union, ce sont 4,2 millions d'Européens en plus. Et pour la Croatie, un pas de plus pour la paix dans les Balkans. Un nouvel État membre et un nouveau visage pour le médiateur européen. La semaine prochaine, les députés éliront le successeur de Nikóforos Diamandouros, en poste depuis 10 ans. 6 candidats remplissent les critères d'éligibilité. 3 eurodéputés, 2 médiateurs nationaux et un expert juridique du Conseil de l'Europe sont en lice. Le nouveau médiateur occupera le poste jusqu'aux prochaines élections européennes, fin mai 2014. Le 1er juillet, la Lituanie prend la présidence de l'Union européenne pour 6 mois. Priorité à la lutte contre le chômage et à la sortie de crise de la zone euro. Pour cela, il faut des moyens. La présidence sortante irlandaise espère d'ailleurs toujours parvenir à un accord sur le budget européen 2014-2020 lors du sommet européen des 27 et 28 juin. Plusieurs votes décisifs sont aussi attendus la semaine prochaine à Strasbourg, parmi lesquels les crédits carbone pour limiter les émissions de CO2. Les députés devraient aussi confirmer leur soutien à l'instauration d'une taxe sur les transactions financières.
You're watching 7 Days in Europe, and joining me in the studio is Dutch MEP Ria Oomen-Ruijten. Ms. Ruijten, we were talking about Turkey, and you were talking about what is happening in Turkey right now. So what's your take on it? I mean, the protests, they started off as, simply just people protesting over trees, and it's grown into something a lot more. It's turned into, you could say, street violence. So do you think the Turkish government is actually handling the situation properly?
No, that was just the reason that we had a resolution in the parliament, because in our view it is up to Turkey to recognize the rights of individuals to protest, and the way it was handled was quite brutal.
And there have also been reports that there's been intimidation of journalists as well. I mean, that's not a very good sign for a candidate country for the EU, no?
No, that is one of the reasons that we always say opening chapters is only besides. What has to happen in Turkey, that it will become a full-fledged democracy, where all the rights of individual citizens, but also of collectors, will be recognized.
But do you think maybe it's time for the Turkish government to change tactics, to maybe talk to protesters more? I mean, what should the government there actually be doing? Should the Prime Minister maybe time for him to leave office?
I think there is a lesson to draw, not only for the government, but also for the opposition, which is, in my view, quite weak. The democracy has to be stretched, and that is very important for a candidate. But we also should look and discuss with each other judiciary and the human rights, and we should give Turkey the benchmarks to come along with some new reforms on this issue.
Now, coming to our new member state, Croatia, is it a big accomplishment that a country that, you know, a post-war, a former country that was in war, is now joining the EU?
It's absolutely necessary for the prosperity, not only for the citizens of Croatia, but also for European citizens, that Croatia joins the European Union. The European Union started as a peace process, and now we can restore what once was broken.
But if we compare maybe Croatia against Turkey, how much more value does Croatia bring to the European Union than, say, Turkey, which, as everyone knows, has, you know, a good economic record, as opposed to a new country like Croatia that isn't doing so well economically?
Yeah, but Croatia is in the heart of Europe, and what is happening with Turkey is that we promised them in 2004 that they could become a member, and that is what we are negotiating. And we have to look for an atmosphere of more understanding, mutual trust, commitment from the side of the European Union, but also commitment from Turkey.
So would you say then that the enlargement policy is a political one?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The enlargement has everything to do with bringing prosperity to the region.
But what about new member states, you could say, like Romania and Bulgaria?
Yeah.
What sort of added value have they brought?
Yeah.
There's lots of issues with them, no?
We could draw a lesson from the enlargement with Bulgaria and Romania, and therefore it took also more time to have Croatia in. It is absolutely necessary that when you start with a process of enlargement, that you first have a look to the chapters judiciary and human rights. Why? Because if your judiciary is not independent, is not impartial, then you never ever can fight the corruption. So therefore it's important not only for European citizens, but also for the citizens of those countries.
So who's next? After Croatia, who comes next, or does anyone come next?
I don't know. I don't know. First of all, they have to fulfill all. No, first of all, everybody has to fulfill all the criteria. But it's not about legislation, to put it in legislation, but it's also in the mindset of the people. There should be an atmosphere of freedoms, because that is what us binds in the European Union. And we never ever should forget that.
Well, Ms. Ruijten, unfortunately, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us on 7 Days. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, good to meet you.
From Asia to the Middle East, Africa and on home soil, Europe's humanitarian efforts have helped people all over the world. The EU is the world's biggest aid donor. The development budget accounts for some 50 billion euros a year, and plans are underway to get 10,000 more people involved through the EU Aid Volunteers programme. But at a time when EU leaders are crying over budget constraints, is it really the best time to launch a new multi-million euro initiative? Well, to discuss that is one of Parliament's biggest advocates for human rights, Social Democrat MEP and, dare I say, former actor and alumni of the UK soap EastEnders, Michael Cashman. Pleasure to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Well, before we start our discussion, we're going to play a little game where I ask you a series of questions and all you do is answer yes or no.
Very good.
Brilliant. Are you ready?
Yep.
OK, then let's go. You were an actor in your previous life, as we mentioned. Is it funnier to be a politician?
No.
Is it right that the UK is to end bilateral aid to South Africa?
No.
News of Nelson Mandela's ailing health. It's a sad moment for all of us, no?
Yes.
Is the fugitive and US intelligence leaker Edward Snowden a traitor?
No.
Is he a hero?
Yes.
Can homophobia ever be eradicated?
Yes.
Is Europe still homophobic?
Yes.
Can poverty ever be eradicated?
Yes.
Could poverty ever be eradicated in Africa?
Yes.
If the EU could stop tax evasion, could that solve poverty?
Yes.
Does the EU do enough to tackle poverty?
No.
Is the world winning the battle against HIV/AIDS in African countries?
Yes.
What's happening in Turkey today? Does it constitute human rights abuse?
No.
Did you volunteer as a student?
No.
No, you didn't.
No.
Well,
I didn't have time. I was a young actor.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time for that part, and I hope you enjoyed it.
I did, yes.
Now, coming to this volunteer programme, obviously there are lots of budget constraints going on. We've heard that the volunteer programme itself, initially the budget was going to be around 240 million. It's now possibly been cut to 140 million. Mm-hmm. But do you think that at this time, when Europe is still knee-deep in crisis, is it really a good time to be launching a new programme and a volunteer programme?
Well, first of all, it's a treaty obligation. So if we don't actually keep up to what we sign up to, then we are valueless. We have no principles. It's foreseen in the Lisbon Treaty. And actually, I think it brings added value, which is what we talk about all the time. So when we go in on, let's say, an emergency aid program, look at Haiti, where there are still problems. We bring in our experts. We bring in all the resources that we needed. And what is vital is that work continues afterwards. But it's often not the expert work. It's additional support work. It's sometimes counselling. It's mentoring, supporting people, ensuring what they've been promised, perhaps a new roof, sanitation, whatever, is delivered. And if we can bring these people in at a lower cost to the European Union, it means that the money that we're using gets that added benefit. So I think it's a very good idea. And anything that says Europe is open to its citizens must be good.
OK, well, we'll just continue our discussion, but first of all, we're going to take a look at this report on the EU Aid Volunteer Programme by Audrey Fries.
Cole n'a jamais quitté l'Europe. Pourtant, il s'apprête à partir en formation humanitaire pour une durée d'1 an. Avec une vingtaine d'autres jeunes, il fait partie d'un projet pilote mis en place par l'Union européenne. Objectif visé, la création d'un corps volontaire européen d'aide humanitaire.
We live in a world where natural catastrophes are growing, the conflicts are becoming more complex and more frequent, demands are growing faster than the resources we have.
Jeunes et moins jeunes en Europe sont donc invités à participer à ce corps.
Le but, c'est de créer un corps de volontaires humanitaires, mais uniquement, moi j'ai vraiment insisté là-dessus, uniquement pour des catastrophes naturelles. Il est hors de question d'envoyer des volontaires sur des conflits politiques. Les volontaires seront recrutés sur les besoins, puisque d'abord nous identifions des besoins lorsqu'il y a une catastrophe naturelle. Il faut bien sûr des médecins, mais ça on a l'habitude. Mais il faut quoi? Haïti, on l'a vu, il faut des maçons, il faut des architectes, il faut des gens qui soient là aussi pour la reconstruction. Sur le terrain, il faut que nous envoyions des jeunes et des experts, des retraités. Moi, je voudrais que ce soit ouvert aux gens qui ont une profession ou qui apprennent un métier.
Envoyer des volontaires soutenir les ONG dans des cas d'urgence implique une capacité à réagir face à des situations souvent éprouvantes. Alors Colm va suivre un entraînement de terrain d'1 mois au Pays de Galles.
We are testing them and challenging them, particularly in the scenario-based exercises, to look at how do they work under pressure. So we can be confident if we're putting them in a challenging situation, we should have a good idea of how they're going to be able to respond.
4 mois plus tard, nous retrouvons Colm en Haïti, où il gère la logistique et l'acheminement des médicaments pour l'organisation Save the Children.
I'm experiencing a lot more frustration than I expected to experience. I suppose I had high expectations coming in about how things would be organised, and I don't think I was flexible enough when I came in. I think I was just a bit naive. It took me a while to adapt, but I think I am coping now.
Alors, pour nourrir son idéal, Colm va à la rencontre des gens qui ont besoin de son aide.
I think the value of someone like Colm is that he can do something that we may not have the resources for someone else to do. Having a person like Colm who's dedicated and committed does help us make a difference.
L'Union espère envoyer dès 2014 ses premiers volontaires. Formés, logés, nourris, blanchis, une indemnisation sera prévue en fonction notamment du pays. C'est à terme plusieurs milliers de personnes déployées dans les pays touchés qui devraient constituer ce nouveau corps de volontaires européens.
You're watching 7 Days in Europe, and with me is British Social Democrat MEP Michael Cashman. Now, before we were talking about the value of this volunteer programme, but at a time when Europe has its own problems, high unemployment, debt, is it really the time to be launching a new programme and helping other people?
Well, I think you've mentioned one very good reason in itself, high unemployment. If people are frustrated, they turn in on their communities, they turn in on themselves. If people who have no employment can get into programs like this, where they're organised by large-scale organisations such as Save the Children, the Red Cross, their energies are being productive.
And do you think it could be a platform to maybe launch themselves into a career?
Absolutely, because we sometimes stumble into our careers, but if you find a way to channel your energy, you end up feeling good about yourself, you've done some good, and it's the basis of community. So can we afford not to invest in other countries where there's appalling poverty, humanitarian disaster? If we say we cannot afford to invest, I'm afraid we cease to be human beings.
But do you think, I mean, with this volunteer programme, volunteers will be sent to places of natural disasters. They're not going to be sent to crisis situations.
Well,
but don't we think that maybe we could have helped save the people of Syria more by putting our volunteers there?
Well, I think if
I mean, it's dangerous, but
I think if we were allowed to, of course, Madam Georgieva would get her teams in there, and Georgieva, our commissioner, is brilliant on these issues. But we can't get in for political reasons, damning political reasons, damning those countries that prevent us and prevent a resolution to Syria. But we have everything to gain at this moment by making sure our resources work. And I think the volunteer programme is quite a creative way of saying we can't always afford to have fully paid bodies there on the ground after we've done the humanitarian work. But we can afford to have volunteers either supporting it or coming in after. And for me, it makes absolute sense. And just so we're clear, I didn't dream it up. I'm defending it because to me, it makes sense.
But do you think, I mean, a programme that doesn't pay people can work? And also, do you think it's a nice feature that one of the features of this programme is that people can work remotely, so they can be sitting from their computer, at their desk in Brussels, and helping people who are in the field?
I think it's great to feel that you're engaged in something that needs help. We often turn away from a crisis. We see something happening on the street, we turn away. I think I'd rather people connected physically, but if they want to connect through their computers or whatever, yes.
Do you think, just generally, the EU's development budget is big enough? Do we spend enough on development projects?
Well, I would like to argue that we
because our budget is being reduced.
Yeah, that we don't spend enough. But part of our problem is that we have member states who make commitments and then don't make them. The commitment for 0.7% of gross national income to go to development, to official development assistance. But then we can also
say, initially for this EU volunteer programme, as I was saying, it was initially 240, now it's reduced to 140. So we ourselves sort of reduce our own budget.
But I mean, you're presenting my arguments rather brilliantly. I'm saying if you put nothing in, you get nothing out. But what we've got to do is make sure that we use citizens' money when they're being critical, where we're not being helped by mainly the printed media who want to attack everything European as the problem. We are ranked as one of the best aid organisations, the EU, in the world. I think we're 7th in the Brookings Index. And what we can do together sometimes is better than what we can do acting alone. But our primary problem is that member states make commitments. We then get into bad economic times and they go, oh, we don't want to make that commitment. But I say to them, and this is extremely important, they made a commitment of 0.7%. They didn't make a commitment of an amount of money. So if the money goes down, the percentage remains the same, but the money that comes in equally goes down. But making sure we meet our commitments is vital.
Well, Mr. Cashman, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us on the programme.
Thank you
so much. You've been watching 7 Days in Europe with me, Mariam Zaidi. Take care and goodbye.